stomach is wet. Saw my life in front of my eyes when we were kissing. I guess that should've made me a bit more suspicious. I just put it in the back of my mind with my visions. I don't think that I should ask for some help. And I saw your lies, you're not surreptitious, and I don't wanna be the one that you're missing. I just hope you think of me in that dark pit of sickness when you feel it in your stomach as well. I saw your lies, you're not surreptitious. I guess that should've made me a bit more suspicious. I just put it in the back of my mind with my visions when you feel it in your stomach as well.
Hello, welcome back.
Hello, Rooted. I'm so glad to be here. My name's Piper. I go by PLYNN or PLYNN, whatever is more comfortable. Yeah, I'm excited to get going.
I'm super stoked to have Piper here. I'm a very big fan of your music.
Oh, thank you.
like going back well before they were released on Spotify, on YouTube, performing live. I would ask where are you from and what you like to do,
Yeah.
but I know where Piper's from.
Yeah, let's go.
And they were actually the first lyricists that I ever met, and actually a huge part of me getting into writing was being able to piece through your journal a little bit and seeing that, it's like just seeing how much it meant to you. I wanted to hear about something like that,
That's so real, and it is very back and forth because, without you having the interest in looking through my journals, I probably would have never gotten the confidence, I guess, to actually go forth and do the Spotify and the performances and stuff. So, yeah, very big part of my journey there for both of us.
It's like a little musical love
I know,
letter.
a little it is. It's the things that bind us together.
Yeah, and it's so important to be yourself because you don't know what's going to come from that.
It's true, and the less that I was myself, the less that I got. So yeah.
Well, since I said I know where you're from, it doesn't mean
that
people
that's
do.
true.
So we should
Before
probably
we get
fill
too
them in.
distracted. Well, I'm from a tiny little mountain town called Sonora in California. If you've heard of it, it's probably for racism.
Just to clarify, this is a big reason why we ran the hell away from there.
Yeah.
It's definitely it's a rough area for sure. But
And things I like to do when I was there, I guess it kind of depends on, which time of my life. More recently, the only thing that I ever did was work and go home and play video games, so very boring. But, growing up, my friends and I, we would love to go walking downtown. We'd go walking through all the stores, hanging out at Walmart is the very stereotypical small town thing. We did that a lot. We'd go in and we'd make hell for those poor minimum wage workers.
Yeah, I miss the 24-hour days.
Oh gosh, I know. Going in super late as a teenager is just a ridiculous time. Other than that, I've pretty much always just been a gamer. I've dabbled in a bajillion different kinds of art, from stop motion things to music, obviously, and yeah.
Out of all your video games, do you have any that you still play every now and again that maybe you still, or that you played in high school as well?
Yeah. Honestly, the only games that I really still keep up with from that period of time in my life is just Call of Duty, but specifically the zombies part of it. Zombies is the only part of Call of Duty I ever really play, and when the nostalgia hits, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, just running those classic maps are probably my favorite ones.
I think that's the only game my siblings would let me play.
That's so funny.
So what would you say is a pro and a con from growing up in Sonora?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot more cons than pros, but honestly, I feel like the two biggest pros, one, just the area, if there was a thing that you should look forward to seeing in Sonora, it's the mountains, the hills, Dragon Gulch Trail is a favorite of mine. You know, there's a lot of things, just big woodsy areas, like less than an hour away. So the area itself is a pro. And then the other pro is more just a personal thing, which is just that, you know, it taught me how to be resilient and how to be myself against all odds, because I didn't have a choice, you know. Before coming out as anything, before coming out as trans or any other flavor of queer, people just hated me for being me. And so it was either basically get firm in who I was as a person or lose myself in the whirlwind of all the shit that was going on there. So yeah, those are probably the two biggest pros, and the biggest con is, and probably will be until the day that the town no longer exists, is just the people. The people there are something special for sure. You know, they're half the California Hollywood behavior, and then they're half hick, racist, conservative, very what's the word I'm looking for? The Confederate flag. You know, very very Confederate flag area.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest con, is just the people, and the people who run the town and the people who run the area don't care about the people who live there.
Yeah, definitely. I think, especially growing up, so I'm let this plane go.
Go away, please.
Shoo fly.
Shoo fly.
But I think a huge part of that area too is sorry, I'm at it.
It's a very loud plane.
She loves obnoxious. But I think a huge thing, I mean, like, one, like, I'm grateful that we didn't fit in, because as we get older, understanding, like, maybe these aren't the kinds of people we want to
Exactly.
be like or be like-minded with.
Yeah.
But also, just being, like, neurodivergent and not having resources out there is pretty freaking brutal.
Oh yeah.
The
I
schools do not care about
the schools
kids.
don't care. The people don't care. You know, obviously the kids will pick at it. You know, because unfortunately that's just the neurodivergent life. They find it and they pick at it, because it's not like it's hard to, you know, find. So I had something else I was gonna say, but I don't remember what it was now. It slipped me.
Damn that plane.
Yeah, damn that plane.
So I was gonna ask, so obviously growing up in a small town where you just felt like you didn't really belong, I relate to this too, so I kind of speak, but I know writing was very much something that I saw have this, like, you had so much passion around it. I remember you being a very kind of like keep to yourself kid where you can be. You were funny and fun, but for the most part, when it came to, like, intimate conversation, I feel like music's always been the thing that I saw kind of crack into who you were the most.
Yeah, for sure.
When you used to write back then, did you do it just kind of like sporadically for fun, or did you have like a process to it?
Yeah, kind of a little bit of both. I think it's a little bit disingenuous to really ever say it was quote unquote for fun, just because in a lot of ways I have pretty much always felt that it wasn't a choice, you know, like I never really made the conscious decision ever, like, oh, I'm gonna write songs today. I would just be sitting in class, sitting at my desk after school, sitting anywhere, you know, and I'd be like, yeah, that sounds good, and I would just start writing, you know. And then, you know, there were times where, you know, I would, you know, especially if I was dealing with mental health or anything like that, just sit at my desk in my bedroom and I would write pages that no one would ever see, you know, just pages of things that maybe didn't even rhyme, you know. So that was like a lot of the process part of it, was just, you know, I would just write so much shit that was just like, well, one of my friends used to call it my serial killer ramblings. He found my binder and he was like, Piper, why does it look like you have a serial killer binder in here? And I was like, it's just it's the voices, they need to come out. No, I'm kidding. It's not like that, but it is kind of like that though. Like, I feel very much, even when I was younger, you know, I didn't think about it this way then, but I feel like it was always just the art needed to come out in some way, you know. I don't think that it was a choice as much as I was like the vessel for the choice, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know a lot of the times when we talk about going into projects, you say you're very adamant about only creating things that you believe need to be created. Yeah. I definitely, I find that to be something that I get, because I feel like there's almost like people talk about writer's block, right? And like that could be a thing. It could also be burnout or whatever. But do you believe in like incubative stages where you get separated from the art and it is kind of like sculpting something new?
Definitely, like, I don't know if everyone goes through that, you know, isolative process where they're kind of deconstructing their whole like image brick by brick and stuff like that, but I definitely know that I have had those moments where I have been disconnected from my music, you know, like where I've been in a stage where no matter what, I wanted to create, I wanted to write songs, I wanted to make EPs and albums and make this really cool art, you know. I started teaching myself production and stuff like that. During this time I was homeless in Massachusetts, living in Boston, and just nothing would come, you know, and then anything that did come, I just hated it. It was like, it was exactly like, you know, it wasn't supposed to be there, you know. It was like, I always kind of view it as like it was there to remind me that that is what I really wanted, you know. And I do think maybe sometimes artists do need that. They need to take the moment away from it to like realize why they do it in the first place, because it's so easy to get swept up into the details and, you know, the imposter syndrome and the life of an artist that, you know, maybe it is important to take some time away and just reevaluate, live some life, and then come back and see what happens. Because after I was out of Massachusetts and back in California, and I was able to kind of settle a little bit more, eventually the music did start coming, and everything that I've made since then has been my favorite thing that I've ever made. So
yeah,
you know.
I've always been like a massive fan of your music. So I know you said that you were struggling out in Massachusetts. Do you feel like that particular time of your life kind of helped you see like a new side of yourself within the art because you were separated from it?
Yeah. I don't know if it necessarily made me see a new side of myself inside the art, but it did make me see inside of myself. It was during that time, during having nothing, like no matter what I did, my brain, poetry, nothing was expressing, that I pretty much was forced to sit inside my brain and be like, I'm not a man, you know? So it was like, it was very much so that I discovered that part of myself without it, you know, without having the shield to kind of take away all those thoughts and put them into, you know, put them into words. I kind of was forced to confront it, and I don't know, that obviously changed the entire course of my life going forward. You know, I'm literally not the same person I was before it. So yeah, I would say that, yeah, very much so.
I mean, like, it's almost like that incubative time was almost like having that self-discovery and everything is what needed to happen instead of the art.
Exactly.
So I have to ask, because I know you released Moss, was it about a year ago?
Yeah, like 6 months ago? I think it was in February.
Oh my, we've been bumping that album.
Yeah, and it's been a long year since then, you know, so.
But as far as like the timeline when you did finally reunite with music, coming back and being in California and away from Massachusetts, how soon after you got back to the hometown did the songs that created Moss start coming to you?
Honestly, like, it's kind of a little bit messy. After we moved back, I had a friend at the time who I had moved to Massachusetts with and moved back, and they were essentially keeping my stuff hostage because I didn't know what was going on with it, you know, and, you know, we weren't in communication at all. And so it probably took about a year, actually, after I got back into Sonora before any music at all started taking shape. And then I tested, you know, with a few different singles, just kind of checking vibes, you know. I kind of trying to step and see, you know, what new direction I wanted to go in, because I knew I wasn't going to do the full rap thing anymore. That was the one thing I knew going into it, was that I didn't want to do that. And so after just playing around, I want to say it was probably about 6 months, you know, before what would eventually become Moss would become Moss. And it didn't start with any of the songs, actually. It started more with like the internal feeling, and then I literally just walked by a patch of moss one day and was like, album cover, album cover, and then from there the music started to take shape kind of around that. And to answer the question, it was about 6 months, a year and 6 months after I got back before moss started to take shape.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I know that one for me, because you did say you're stepping away from rapping, which you are extremely gifted at.
Thank
like
you.
You're very lyrically talented, no matter where you throw the darts at. Like, but so since Moss was kind of a turn away from like traditional hip hop, what would you say like the genre shift was more towards if you had to pick?
That's a very hard question because honestly, I kind of view genre almost the same way as I view gender identity, which is basically that it doesn't exist. You know, we just have the labels to make ourselves more comfortable. But I definitely would say that, like, in my mind, the direction that I wanted to go was more of like a singer-songwriter direction, but not like the full Ed Sheeran stuff. You know, I don't play guitar or anything, so I didn't ever think I would get like to that point. But it was more just like, I don't know, I wanted to focus more on the melody and the sound overall instead of just, you know, the lyrics, you know, like it kind of what you said, you know, you say I'm gifted lyrically. I don't want to toot my own horn. I know that I'm decent at it, at least, you know.
Worked very hard.
I've worked very hard for a very long time. I've been writing music, like I said, you know, I don't think it was ever really a choice. I've been writing songs since I was like 3 years old. And so I knew that I was good at that part of it, but the one part that I always struggled with was the overall sound of it. You know, like, I could have the best lyrical verse ever, but, you know, the verse might not sound good, or the chorus didn't sound good because I couldn't sing, or just the atmosphere wasn't right for the vibe I was creating. You know, when I did my very, very first album that was on streaming services way back under my old name, it was called PLYNN. I had a good few moments recording that where I just couldn't get what I wanted because my brain was, I'm a rapper, you know? And so when switching to Moss and switching to PLYNN and switching my whole vibe, that was the sonic was like the main thing I was focused on. Just how can I make it sound good, and how can I make it sound cool, and how can I write it in a way that makes people want to keep coming back to it, not just hear it once and be like, that was cool, and then never listen to it again, you know?
Yeah, I won't lie. Like, I remember listening to PLYNN and I liked it.
Yeah.
Like, I've always liked your work. But there was something very liberating about Moss.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, I think it just kind of feels very healing. I think I've told you before, I've listened to Me in the Clouds during some pretty hard times in my life. And it's like that pep talk that I didn't know I needed.
That's a good way to put it. And Me in the Clouds is a one that is very close to my heart. Like, when I say I don't make songs that I don't think need to exist, you know, I will only make a song if I think it needs to be out there. That's like the pinnacle, you know, like, never in a million years, if someone showed me that song, would I think I would make a song like that, you know, but it came to me and it happened, and I connected with it on such a deep level from multiple different perspectives, you know, coming off of being homeless in Massachusetts and being all isolated, you know, which is a very, very big theme of the album, and then also coming to terms with like my gender identity and all the stuff that, you know, fell by the wayside through that. I don't even remember what the original question was. I keep just rambling.
I know, I'm just vibing out, honestly. I will say, while we're on the topic of Moss, though, do you have like a song or two that you think spoke to you the loudest on that album?
Well, for sure, Me in the Clouds is definitely number one. You know, like, that song, it is like a stubborn little sibling, you know, it kept knocking on the door until I finally was like, okay, come on, you know, like, we're gonna make this song, you know, and I struggled a lot with getting it to sound right at first, and then it just kind of clicked, you know, I just messed around with it, and then I would say the other song that spoke to me the most, which you might not understand listening to the record because it doesn't really have that same depth to it as Me in the Clouds does, but is actually the intro track, Lying in Wait, because that song was originally meant to be just background. The instrumental was a background for a short film I was making that I ended up scrapping because I didn't have the resources. and then the lyrics just kind of started coming to me, and it eventually became the new intro of the EP. And that one just like, that one feels like a me from the future reaching back and telling you like everything you want is waiting for you. You just have to go and take it, you know, like, and that's very much like the feeling I wanted to like wrap up Moss, you know, like I wanted you to start thinking you could take it all and end being like, I'm going to, you know?
Absolutely. I like the intro track too, because like, now that you mention it, I remember when I first played through the album, there was something where it was, dare I say, psychedelic. Like it very much was like getting me prepared for like a journey I was gonna take, and I feel like the sound of it did kind of match that very, very well. I know we've been, I got some sneak peeks at the new EP that's gonna be dropping relatively soon. Do you have a date on that? By the way?
It's gonna be October 28th is the new EP. It's called Cuts, Bruises, and White Flags. The song that you would have heard opening this, or maybe closing this, is the intro track to that EP.
Yeah, it's, the whole thing is so stellar. I suggest you listen to the new EP. I suggest you go back to Moss. And speaking of these two projects, I had the most interesting conversation with you recently when we were just like rambling in the garage one day, where you dropped a little Easter egg on me that you said, you have almost like a, I don't want to say, is it color coordination, or how would you describe
like,
that?
I guess palette's kind of the wrong way to word it, because it usually is just one base color. But yeah, I would say like a color, like a theme color, I guess it is the right way to put it. And that's something that I've always done. You know, every project that I've made has a color, you know, and even if it's not obvious when you listen to it or look at the cover art or whatever, in my mind everything has a color. You know, Chlorine very obviously was yellow. It was the color of like something that is unpure. The next project after that was like an orange color, and then, you know, with Moss was green, and then with the new one the base color is red. And the color is, it's multi-purpose, you know. It's partially just because to keep me in line, you know, like when I'm making Moss and I'm making a song and it doesn't sound green, you know, that makes sense, right? If the song doesn't sound green, then it's not gonna fit, you know, like, I don't know, like that's the way that my brain kind of looks at it, you know. And with red, you know, with the new EP, I feel like red was a good color because not only the subject matter, but also just generally like almost every song on there sounds aggressive and it sounds angry and it sounds hurt, and I feel like red is just a very good color to encapsulate that. And once again, I feel like all the songs on there sound red, and if there wasn't a song that wasn't, then I was like, no, I don't think that should go there. I'll put it on something else, you know, maybe put it out as a single. Yeah, and it's pretty much just that, you know. And it is also kind of an Easter egg because it gives people like a thing to like look for, you know, because it's not always readily obvious. Moss is pretty obvious because it's all green, you know, like, and the new one is a little less obvious, you know, probably. I haven't gotten the cover yet. I gotta work on that, but you know, and then I have plans for like the next few already. Like I already know what the next few colors are going to be, so you know that's a mystery tool that'll help us later. But yeah, that is the story behind the theming of the colors. Yeah.
I love how your mind works, because the second you were like, yeah, this album's red, instantly I was like, I can see that. I can like it just.
That's funny. Yeah, like I don't know, like that's the way like my brain works, you know. When I hear music, like I'm a very visual thinker, so just when I hear any music, there's automatically a scene that comes into my mind. And you know, with Moss, you know, walking through like a mossy forest is like the image, you know. So that's why it's the main thing that you take away from it is the green and the feeling of loneliness.
I kind of like it too, because I'm someone where if I'm gonna go hiking, I don't like being around tourists. I don't like being around people. I want to be alone, and it's almost like being in that blanket of green. It's just kind of very soothing, very comforting.
And like especially on a rainy day, like it feels like a nice like warm blanket sometimes.
Yes, and so I know one thing that's been relatively new to your career has been being able to perform live.
Oh yeah.
And because this is something relatively fresh, I feel I had like this urgency with how quickly I wanted to get you on the show, because I feel like a lot of people really step away from like their first open mics too rapidly, and I kind of wanted to capture maybe some of the early stuff with you.
Yeah.
What do you think has been, or I guess I'm just gonna let you run, like how has been performing been for you?
Honestly, it's been exactly what I expected, and also completely different in a lot of ways. You know, like I've been practicing performing in a stage since I was in diapers. You know, like standing on the laundry basket while my mom's sobbing her eyes out with the hairbrush, being like, smoking weed, doing drugs from fucking Silent Bob and Violet, whatever that old movie. I used to literally like, and you know, I used to rap like every word to Lose Yourself by Eminem as in the stores, like a little 2-year-old, just like knees weak, arms ahead, you know. So in a lot of ways, it was like I'd been preparing for it my entire life, you know, like. The crowd wasn't as big of a factor as I thought that it would be. You know, I really thought it would shake me more, but once I'm up there, my brain kind of just goes into its own little bubble, you know, and then they're pretty much not there until the end of the performance, and then I'm like, oh, cool, like they liked it, or I was gonna say, or they didn't, but actually I really haven't come into that so far yet. I will say, like, the one thing that has kind of actually surprised me is how natural it felt kind of to slide into it. I always get nervous. I'm not going to be here and be like, I'm Captain Confidence, you know, every time I go up on stage. I'm always nervous, but once I'm up there, it's immediately off, and then once I'm off stage, I feel so, like, relieved and free, and the support in the community is honestly just unparalleled. Like pretty much everyone else on the show so far, I perform mostly at Vulture's open mic, and the amount of times I've gotten off stage and people have been like, oh, I love the new direction you're going, or that was really awesome, you know, like last night I went and performed and some girl was talking about her Pokemon tattoo, because I had a line talking about Pokemon, and it's just cool to see that connection part of it, you know, like that's the part of it that I didn't expect, was, I guess, for my music to actually make an impact on people, you know?
I was so amazed, because when you came out here, I think it had to have been like barely a week, and we're like, we're going to open mic.
I think it was 3 days.
And you said, screw it, I'm gonna do it, and I, like, that to me blew me away, and was like, you really cut from like the performance loss, like, immediately. But another thing I noticed when you do perform that I love, because I can't sit still, is you get the room dancing. You get people moving.
Yeah, that has been a huge surprise for me too, because like the first time, you know, you guys told me that, and I thought you were just messing with me, you know, like, oh, they're just being nice, you know, like, and then technically my third performance, but my second one at Vultures, I was performing 2 new songs off the new EP. That performance is actually on my channel. You want to go watch it after this episode. And there were multiple people that, you know, I sat behind, so I know they don't move for everything, and they were nodding along in the video, and then you can hear people complimenting it, and like, that's so crazy to me, you know, like, that's such a liberating feeling. And I think that people who are like me, who are very nervous and very anxious about things like that, you know, things like that is, you know, if I would have gone up there that first time, you know, and everyone would have been like, boo, you suck, I don't know if I ever would have gone on that stage again, you know, but the support was made it so much easier to just get back up there the second time, the third time, however many dozens of times I do it in the future, just knowing that even if I do have a shitty night, there's probably going to be one person that I saw dancing in the crowd or that connected to it. And like, I think that's very important to the creative process, you know, like, I think one of the other guests said that, you know, they didn't really change the way they write because, you know, they write for live, but for me it completely changed the way that I approached music because it made me want to make things that made people dance, you know, like, it made me want to make things that I could get a new crowd to sing by the end of it, you know?
Yeah, I love that, because I do remember after you performed, I know you said you were kind of going through this creative block for a little bit, and then you had that first open mic, and then boom, this
Boom.
EP just started flowing
out of nowhere,
you.
and not even just this EP. You know, I've got like, I was counting them the other day. I've got like 7 or 8 songs, maybe 9 in demo stages that are just sitting in various stages that all happened right after that first open mic and the second one in Denver.
Yeah, no, it's been really incredible. I won't lie, like I love when we practice before we go out. I feel like I'm getting these mini concerts. Like I always get down, I'm always dancing. But
also always hyping me up at the open mics too. If I look out in the crowd and I feel like I'm doing rough, I just look over and Iris is dancing and it pulls me right back into the moment.
I love, like, I'll be like singing the lines, so anyone like insecure in the crowd that's like, I'm scared to like new things because it hasn't been given a grade A yet, they're like, oh, she's singing it? This must be cool. And I'm like, because it is.
Yeah, it is. And honestly, I think that is infectious. Like, that's probably a lot of the reason why people get dancing for me, you know? Because I did notice when you weren't there this last time that, you know, there was a little bit, but it was not nearly as much.
I would not credit me because you would not believe the amount of shows I go to where, like I said, I physically am incapable of sitting still, even in silence, but primarily with music. I cannot sit still.
Yeah.
It's almost like, some would argue, a disability.
Some would argue that. Some might say that.
But yeah, so I go to a lot of places where I am the funky duck that is always dancing, and I have to say, not a lot of times do people jump in.
Well, yeah, I don't know, maybe it just was a rough night, but I don't know, I think that you might have made a difference, but yeah.
I appreciate that. So I know we covered a little bit on Moss, but as far as the new EP, is there any particular song that you, like, part of you might want to have like a little bit more reach, or you want to kind of reach out a little more?
All of them. Like, if I'm honest, like, every single song except for one, I made pretty much with the intention of, I don't want to say with the intention of mass appeal, but with the intention of trying to make it as wide-reaching as possible. You know, like, people who don't like rap, you know, might listen to it. People who don't like rock might listen to it. People who don't like indie stuff might listen to it. You know, I very much tried to get that message out, because I don't want to spoil the project too much, but it is very, very much about my relationship with my music and with my creative process. And I wanted, you know, kind of just show that it's not all glamorous, you know, like, as much as I do love music, and I do feel like I was put here with the sole intention of doing music, like, I don't think I have another purpose, you know, like, I like can't, you know, ignore that part of it and be like, oh no, I lost my train of thought.
Oh no.
No. Some might call that a disability. Oh yeah, I really wanted people to see that, you know, it's not all glorified. You know, I'm talking about how almost natural it was to get up on stage and how much I love making music, but like, it is very much an abusive relationship. It is, you know, I spend 6 to 12 hours a day working on music, and you get pretty much nothing out of it, you know, like, at least, especially so early into my new project and stuff like that, you know, you just don't really see that much of it. And so I do think that, a lot of it was, you know, that, you know, I did want people to get that message of it and being like, is it a very rewarding thing? Yeah, it feels like a good relationship when it's good, but then when it's bad, it feels exactly like you're running back to the person who just slapped the shit out of you. You know, you're like, oh no, please don't do it again. I believe you. You won't do it again, right? Like, yeah, so I would say pretty much all of them I made with the intention of trying to get people to hear them. I don't know if there's one really that like steps out, you know, out of the crowd. I would say there's one that I kind of hope doesn't, which is the second to last track, Third Eye, is very personal, you know, like a lot of people maybe not even get it, but I believe that's my most vulnerable song that I've ever written, you know, and so that's like the opposite, you know. I hope that one isn't the one that goes out and reaches a bunch of people,
kind
but
of like more quality hits over
yeah,
quantity.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, and I like it. I feel like this album, it hits me from like so many different directions. The lyrics on it, also just like the the flow and the vibe that you have like kind of handcrafted together. It's been, I don't know, it's fun as fuck, but it is very, very vulnerable.
Yeah, and honestly, for the new EP, since we're talking about it, I do also have to credit you on, you know, just the part of it. We were going through like a rough run of it, you know, just listening to it, and Iris gave me the idea to switch. Well, I kind of already was thinking it, but to switch the order of the track list. And as soon as that happened, as soon as I flipped it, it hit in such a different way where even for me as the person who made it, it connected with me in such a different way that I think it is my best work that I've ever done.
I love it. And I mean, like, it's not like I went through and pieced it. Like, it was an option of go
one
through
way
one way.
or this way.
Yeah, it definitely, I think bottom to top was the way to go for sure. It's a lot of fun. But as far as, I may edit this a little bit because I have so many fucking notes on here.
You jumped around a lot too.
I know. But I felt like the flow was like just it was going, so I was going with it. Okay. I'm gonna go in with like a weird fluff random question, just because this is fun. But if you could give someone a survival skill, who would it be, and what would the skill be?
If I could give anyone a survival skill, it would be my mom. And I think the skill that I would give her is just having any survivor instinct at all. That woman, I love her to death. Mom, if you end up watching this, I love you to death, but you do not know how to keep yourself alive. She has told me a story once where she went out drinking with her friend, and they were like doing some recreational drugs and stuff like that, and they ordered an Uber, and they got into the Uber, and it was just some random dude. Like, not an Uber, just some random dude, and it's her and her friend who are like blackout drunk and high on other things, like, and you know, like, and then out of nowhere they just luckily happened to end up at their hotel, you know, like the guy just happened to be cool enough to take them there. But like, I'm like, there's no survival instinct involved in that. How did you raise me to be like so on guard, and you're like, oh, let me just walk into this super dangerous situation.
It's the whole bless up thing.
Yeah.
Do as I say,
not as I do. Yeah, for sure.
No, I feel that. I'm always like, when it comes to like zombie apocalypse and stuff, I'm like, don't expect me to do a damn thing. I'm running straight up to a zombie and being like, let's get this over with.
Let's get this over with. Well, like, so the reason why I wouldn't do that is because I'm terrified that my brain would still be functional afterwards. Like, I would be conscious, just shambling around as a zombie.
Oh my gosh, do you think zombies feel pain?
I hope not.
I hope not.
Otherwise, sorry, Call of Duty, I don't know.
Oh no.
Heard a lot of zombies.
So this one I think is back on the music. No, I had it in my notes. I'm very bad at the read part. but when you're writing or performing or even planning, like, do you feel like you have like any characters from your life or any people that you kind of carry in the music with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like there's multiple answers to that, you know. I feel like my younger self comes along in every song, you know, like Tyler the Creator has a really cool quote where he says that he likes to create like a kid and edit like a scientist. And I feel like I carry that kid part of me sometimes in there when I'm making music, you know, like the way that I make music is I literally will go in over a beat and freestyle, like, and it's nonsense, you know, it's literally like humming 99% of the time, and then I fill in the words from there. I feel like during the like mumbly freestyle portion, that's where I'm bringing along my kid's self, because that's when I'm like, I hear this funny little pocket in the song and I can be like, and you know, like, and it sounds goofy, but then, you know, the little kid part of my brain that's like having fun with this random noise can think of what that noise should be in words, you know?
Yeah.
And then I also think that in a completely normal and not mental health related way, that I carry my future self with me. You know, I was saying earlier, I feel like Lying in Wait was like my future self reaching a hand back through time and, you know, giving me like a pat on the back and a pep talk for what I needed at the time. And I tend to feel that way about most of my music, not just because of the way that it comes to me naturally and how I feel like I can't create unless it needs to create, or I won't create unless I need to, but also in the sense of a lot of my music, it ends up becoming very weirdly prophetic and predictive. You know, like I have a line in Moss where I say something like, I know you remember when I moved out of the state, and I think it might be time for me to do it all again because I don't want to feel like moss on a wall. And what did I do? You know, 6 months later, I'm not in that place anymore. I moved out of state, and there's a lot of references to staying up till 4 o'clock in the morning, which is just an insomnia thing, but also, you know, later in the future, there was this girl that I was talking to, and I was staying up till 4 o'clock in the morning for her, and it lined up very well with the lyrics of Moss. And so in a lot of ways, I do feel like I'm bringing that part of my character out. You know, it's the future me who's being like, you don't realize it yet, but these words have a lot more weight and importance than you even know. And then the third one is my mom. I love my mom to death. Like I said, you know, we've had our problems, and you know that is what it is. You know, but at the end of the day, I know that every single time I finish a song, every time I get off a stage, every time I get on the stage, in the back of my mind, I'm having the thought to myself, one day my mom's gonna be right there and I'm winning an award, you know?
Yeah.
And every song, when I finish it, you know, like, one day I'm gonna win an award for this song and my mom's gonna be there to see it. She's very much like, I definitely wouldn't say I make music for her. Like, if she listened to a lot of my stuff, she probably wouldn't like it. But that is part of it that I'm sorry about that, that I carry with me, is just knowing that despite everything, you know, that we've been through, that I want to impress her, and I want to be able to support her, and I want her to see her firstborn child do everything that I always said I was going to do, you know? And so I think that's a very big part of it as well. And me and my mom, those who come with me.
I love that.
Yeah.
Honestly, you touched a little bit on something that I think we have a lot of good quality conversations about, because we talk about things like astrology, we talk about crystals, we talk about manifesting, and kind of like we say like synchronicities,
yeah, and like angel numbers and stuff.
Yeah, how do you feel particularly with manifesting, because you mentioned how it's almost like there's like I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know
propheticness.
Yeah, when it comes to music making, do you feel like when you manifest in, say, some of your, or like even if you do, I don't even know if you did during your hardest times.
Yeah.
But do you think manifesting in harder times versus better times, like there's a difference in how you approach it?
Yeah, I don't know if there's necessarily a difference in the way that I approach it, but I will say that there is a difference in the way, how do I word this? There's a difference in the way that my brain processes it. You know, like when I'm in a really, really low spot, and I'm sure a lot of people relate to this, the last thing you want to hear is, I can change this with my mindset. You know, that's the last thing you want to hear. And so sometimes when you're in a lower state, that doesn't help, you know, to sit there and be like, you know, doing your affirmations and be like, everything's cool, I'm not homeless, you know, I'm not across the country from everyone I know and love. Like, you know, there's like a bitterness to it when you're at a low. It's like, so does that mean I manifested myself into this? You know, it comes with a lot more bitterness when I'm in a low state versus where I'm in a high state. You know, obviously it's easy, you know, like, and in a lot of ways, when I'm in a higher state, I think my mind is more open to seeing the manifestations. You know, like, I can't really think of any good examples off the top of my head that have happened to me personally, but when I'm in a low state, say something like you being like, you and Matthew being like, oh, go to the open mic 3 days after moving here. You know, if I'm in a shitty state and I'm looking at that from a manifestation point of view, I'm going to be like, that's stupid. You know, that's pointless. Why am I going to do that? That's not going to do anything. You know, I don't have enough practice. Like, but then if I'm in a good mood, I just got good performance, then it's like, oh, heck yeah, you know, like, everything's working out. You know, next week I'm booking 7 gigs, you know, 2 months from now I'm going on tour. Like, so it's very much just a difference in, like, the energy that I approach it with. But when I was at my lowest, you know, like, my manifestation was, I would say, very limited too. You know, actually that's a good difference, is that when I'm high, you know, on top of the world, every manifestation seems possible. You ask me right now how I'm feeling, tomorrow I'm famous, you know?
Yeah.
But when I'm at my lowest, it's a lot more the basic. It's a lot more like, okay, I need $100 for food. Like something like that, $50 for food. Things like that, and then boom. Okay, it's a lot more like survival based. It's a lot more looking at the trees, and then when I'm in a high state, it's more like looking at the forest.
Yeah.
When I'm manifesting in a dip, it's like focusing on what's right in front of me. I just need to manifest getting through this. And then when I'm up, sky's the limit. Like there is no limit.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting because I feel like we're very like yin and yang. 'Cause, like when I'm at my absolute lowest, I feel like I manifest and ask 10 times harder.
Yeah.
I like need to believe that there's something better. Because I'm also someone, like, I hate it, but, like, I feel like I'm just naturally, there's something wrong with me where I can't enjoy things.
That's so real. That's so real.
So, like, when I'm at a high, I'm waiting for everything to be ripped from me, so I can't ask for more, because I'm already scared of protecting what I have. But when I'm at a low, I'm like, give me everything and more, because the next step feels impossible, so everything's impossible.
And that makes a lot of sense, honestly. Like, I feel like probably a lot of people do approach it that way. Like when they're at their lowest, that's when they feel like they need more. For me, when I'm at that point and I'm trying to focus on the more, it makes it worse, because now I'm thinking about all the things I don't have, and
it's like pressure.
Yeah, and for me, I think manifestation really, really comes into play when I'm coming from a place of abundance and not from a place of lack. When I'm so focused on how much I don't have, I feel like that's the energy that goes with it. So instead of manifesting it, I'm actually doing the opposite. I'm pushing it away, like being like, I need this so bad right now. I need this so bad right now. That thing that I need so bad right now is like, nah, like a magnet, it's like, go away, and so a lot of people probably do that, but for me, it's like, nah, I need to focus on the here and now, and then when I'm in the energy of abundance, like everything is great, that's when I can go, okay, give me, record deal, give me whatever, the big things are out on the fringes of my manifestation list.
Yeah, no, I find it really interesting because, like, the second you said it, I was like, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I ass backwards?
That's funny. See, and I think that I'm ass backwards in that scenario. Like, I think that most people probably approach it the way that you do, but...
I mean, it could be split, like, people out here just being all over the place all the time. But, if you had the opportunity to make the entire world agree on one thing, what would it be?
We're gonna get controversial here real quick. If I could get the whole world to agree on one thing, it would be, I'll go a little bit more vague in it. I will say it would be that things don't need to be the way they are, in terms of society, in terms of life, in terms of fucking just day-to-day shit, it does not need to be the way that it is. It is, we do not need to be working 40 plus hours a week for $7.25 an hour. We do not need to be sending $200 billion to foreign entities overseas and paying for their healthcare and paying for bombs and paying for oppression so that we can have our iPhones, and we don't need to do that. We do it and we accept it, and so many people will just lay down and take it because it's quote unquote the way things always were. It's the norm, and I think that is the most dangerous thing that happens to us, because at that point, what are you even fighting for? If you wake up every morning with everything that's happening in the world right now, and you think to yourself, like,
this is fine.
Yeah, this is fine. Like, oh yeah, Trump's doing crazy mass deportations and Israel's bombing every fucking child in Gaza. But, it's been that way for 80 years, so why should I do anything about it? That is, I think that's disgusting to me, and I think that it is lazy, and I think it's complacent to look at the way things are and not want it to be better. I can't imagine waking up every morning and not wanting to be in a world where things are nice and easy, and I don't have to go broke if I break a leg because they wanted to build beachfront property in Palestine. I I think that if I had a microphone and everyone on the world heard me all at once, I would tell them that the only thing stopping things from changing, and I'm talking a lot on a giant political scale, but I mean even down to the little things like, like the way you look, the things you do every day, the food that you eat, the way that you approach people, the way that you talk to people, everything can change. I know so many people who hit their 40s and 50s and they're like, I've always been this way, so I might as well just die this way. And I think that's the saddest thing. I think that if I was the same person next month that I was last month, that's a failure on my part, and that's not judging anybody else, but I do think that if I'm not evolving, then I'm failing, and so I kind of think that that's an important thing, because a lot of people get stuck, this job sucks, I hate it, my boss is abusive, but I've been here for 10 years, so like things like that. And I think that yeah, and maybe to put it in a sentence, until the day that you are no longer on this planet, you can change anything that you want to at any time, and your circumstances might be shitty. You might not be able to change all of everything, all the time, but you can change anything, any one thing. You could wake up tomorrow morning and decide that you want to run a mile every day, and the only person who's stopping you from doing that is you. You could wake up tomorrow and decide that you want to go join a community group and start, actually forming some kind of resistance against the world and the state that we're in. You could do that tomorrow, and you could choose to do that, and the only thing stopping you from doing it is you.
Yeah, no, I absolutely, I love that, because I think you're right. I think people just being like, well, that's the way it always is,
Yeah.
Get used to it, suck it up, the world's a gnarly place. It's like, it is lazy.
Yeah, it is, because
you're
it's
not
like,
even trying to change
it doesn't
the
need
approach.
to. Like, do you think it was always that way 500,000 years ago when there was no humans on the planet? Do you think it was that way? Like, when change happens, people are so resistant to it.
Or what's the problem with striving for
yeah.
trying something?
Well, like,
what's the point of
that's the thing,
technology if we're not
too.
going to use it for good?
Yeah, like, and what are you, like, what's the point of waking up every day and being like, everything sucks, but I can't do anything about it? Like, if you're already waking up with that mindset, then you're already exactly what you said. You're already giving into it. Like, you're already not making a change, because you're like, well, I can't do it myself. Whatever the situation is, and it might sound like I'm coming off, like, you can do anything, stop being lazy, but I speak from a personal experience. Like, so many things and so many fears I've overcome, so many changes I've made, so many things I've done is literally just waking up one day and being like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to wake up tomorrow and feel the way that I feel now, And I think that's very, very important, is to not let your own obstacles be the thing that stops you from being great, because everyone can come up with a million excuses for why not to do something, and you really only need one to do it,
Yeah, and you always, like big strides come from small steps, and
exactly.
you gotta crawl before you can walk.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you're talking about with the open mics and stuff like that, 3 days in, I do that one, that gets me comfortable, so now that world is open to me. I never did do an open mic in Sonora, not for just, not having the push to do it, but also just because the area wasn't right for it, so I would have never done that there, and it's my own mental block, it's me being like, people are gonna hate me, people are gonna judge me, no one's gonna like this, and then as soon as I did it, opposite things started happening, people like it, I'm here doing Rooted now, so it's like I got an interview, and we have a show coming up, which is mind-boggling. I don't even think I fully have mentally processed that yet, if I'm honest, but it started with the one step of just doing it, just getting past the mental block that says you will never be good enough, you can't do that, you can't change that, you've always been Shy Piper who doesn't do anything, you can't do that. And then I did it, and then all of a sudden that voice lost all its power, that little voice now that's like, you can't do that. It's like, I've done it 4 fucking times. What do you mean I can't do that? Like,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And then, it leads to things like getting a show. And then, and that's the beauty of it, is that it's also, you know, one step at a time. That's the thing too, is that a lot of people, I think, don't make change because they do expect when you change one thing, everything else changes, you know? And sometimes that is true. When I came out as trans, I lost friends who were queer, you know? People who I knew who were queer no longer talk to me after I came out as trans. So
That's
it's like,
crazy to me.
and you know, that is a crazy thing, and that is part of why people don't do it. But, you know, I didn't start day one on hormones, you know? I started and was like, I'm trans, let me try this out, you know? And that led to the big change of everyone leaving and then my life changing. You know, it wasn't just immediately, you know? And I do think that a lot of people simultaneously focus too much on the small picture and the big picture. You know, they make one step 100 steps, and they make 100 steps one step.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, that's why it's like you can either be in the past or the future.
Yeah.
But present
Or the
is
now.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in the midst of life, between the pushes, the pulls, the highs, the lows, the busyness in Stillwater, what do you think is something that consistently brings you comfort?
Ooh, consistently. We kind of went over the questions beforehand, but honestly, like, I kind of forgot about that one, so I'm like, I didn't realize kind of like how heavy it was. One thing, music, you know, like, if there was ever a thing in my life that I could point back to in every single harsh moment of my life and think that was my first thought, you know, it is a notepad, my phone, a beat, you know, like, anytime pretty much anything has ever been anything, good emotion, bad emotion, it's been music, you know. As a kid, I had like a little Walkman with like Eminem CDs and shit, and like when my mom was getting abused by her boyfriends, I would just put on my headphones and like leave the house, you know. It was my first comfort, and it'll probably be my last, you know. Like, if I have the choice on my deathbed, I will listen to my favorite songs, you know, like...
What album we play?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. What album we bump in, Piper's Death Part? No, you know, like... you know, like, but that it is very much listening to music, writing music, dancing, anything to do with music. It has always been and probably will always be my biggest release, my biggest relief, my biggest shield.
Yeah, I hope that I have a cool outro in this life, because I actually birthed both my kids. I was very adamant with the doctors that I'm going to play music.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is I just put together a birth playlist, made sure it was playing whatever song they came out to. Didn't matter.
Yeah.
I will say one thing before we plug where we can find you. Matthew sucks, because I found out I had to get an emergency C-section for my first kid. You know what this asshole comes in playing on the phone? This fool comes in playing Scar Tissue by the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
That's so funny. That's unfortunate, but that's so funny.
So where can people find you? Any upcoming events or places on the interwebs?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube at PLYNN Music, or Hey It's PLYNN. I think it pops up for either. On everything else, I am just PLYNN, PLYN. Well, you'll see it in the title. I don't know how I'm spelling it. On Instagram, it's Hey It's PLYNN again. Upcoming events on October 28th, I'm going to be releasing Cuts, Bruises, and White Flags. Very, very excited for people to hear that one. And then on November 1st, we are still working out the details, but we actually have a show that Iris is putting together and is putting me on it. For the Colorado fam, it's going to be at Friskies, so if you want to come by, come by. What else? I don't think I have anything else immediately coming up, but you know, I'm always working on things, and yeah, you know, we'll see what the future holds.
This is why you follow on Instagram to get updates all the time. But thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I can't turn the weather off, but it always looks like rain. I sit inside my room, hoping everything will change. I try to look for love, but it always ends the same. Maybe that shit's not for me, but I'm
always looks like rain. I sit inside my room, hoping everything will change. I try to look for love, but it always ends the same. Maybe that shit's not for me, but I'm still counting down the days. Mark it off the calendar till the feeling fades. Save it all for a rainy day, so you can say